true, and he felt a splatter of snow against his chest. White stepped outside the cover of the guardhouse, felt his own anger rising, looked at the faces, the voices jeering, calling out to him. One boy suddenly lunged closer, and White watched his hands, expecting something, another snowball. But the boy said, "What kind of man are you? A filthy lobsterback!" White began to move toward the steps at the doorway, but the boy jumped in front of him, reached out and grabbed at the uniform, began to shout, "Dirty lobsterback!" And White swung the musket around, the butt striking the boy's face. The boy fell backward, a sharp cry, and now there was silence from the mob. White felt his hands shaking, tried to grip the musket, shouted, "Leave this place! Move away!" The injured boy was crying, shrieking, "You dirty scoundrel! I'll see you dead!" The voices began to answer, more curses, the boys moving closer again. The snowballs resumed, and then something dark flew past his head, a thick piece of wood, making a sharp cracking sound against the wooden door behind him. He shouted again, "Back! Stay back!" Now he pulled out the bayonet, slid it hard on the barrel, a sharp twist, and lowered the barrel, pointed it out toward the crowd. His heart was racing, and he felt a surge of strength, the fear growing into raw excitement. He expected to see the fear in their faces, the respect for the soldier with the loaded musket, the great strength of the army. But the voices were louder still, and now another stick struck the door behind him. "Shoot us! Go ahead! Shoot us, you coward! Shoot us and be damned!" Then there was a new sound, from a church tower, the sudden tolling of a bell echoing through the streets. Another bell began, farther away. The faces began to turn away, looking toward the sound, the fire bell. Far down the street, more men began to emerge, and he could hear shouting, one word flowing from place to place. "Fire!" The crowd pushed toward the custom house, some moving toward him, some lining up on the street. In front of him, the curses rose once more. "Dirty scoundrel! Lobsterback!" The sticks were raised again, the snow and ice striking the walls around him, a sharp stab suddenly in his chest, the heavy stick punching him. He looked out over the heads of the men closest to him, could see the main guard building, shouted, "Turn out the guard! Turn out the guard!" The people nearest to him began to move up the short steps, one man reaching out, grabbing at the musket. White jerked the gun to one side, swept the tip of the bayonet back and forth, forcing the men back. One boy shouted close to him, "Shoot us, then!" White pressed his back hard against the door, still waving the bayonet toward the crowd. "Damn you! I will shoot!" At that instant, there were new sounds, and he turned, saw a line of red emerging through the crowd, saw the tips of bayonets. The man who led the soldiers held a sword high, the coat brighter red, the man's chest crossed with bright yellow, the uniform of an officer, a familiar face. White said, "Sir, Captain Preston, sir!" The crowd seemed to pull away, the mass of men and boys watching as the soldiers repeated what White had done, loading their muskets. Preston moved up onto the steps, said, "It's all right, Private. Fall in. Take position with the troops." White stepped quickly toward the line of soldiers, saw 8 men, all huge, the hand-picked elite, the grenadiers, all grim-faced. He moved among them, felt their strength, their power. The fear was gone, the excitement filling him, and he thought, "Now we will see. Now this mob will know." He felt a snowball hit his stomach, and at once the sticks were flying again, the shouts coming as before. Captain Preston stepped out in front of the soldiers, said, "We will march away from here. You will let us pass." There was a chorus of new voices, one man in front shouting, "Or you will shoot us? Go ahead then, and damn you to hell!" Preston looked back at the soldiers, pointed along the wall of the custom house. "Form here. Flanks anchored against the wall." The men moved back, White following the flow. Preston paced slowly in front of the troops, said to the crowd, "You will disperse. In the name of King George, I order you to return to your homes." White saw something flash in the crowd, the bright brass of a saber. Suddenly a man lunged forward at the troops, grabbed one musket by the barrel, tried to pull it away from the soldier who wrestled with his attacker. Another man struck out at a bayonet with a long stick, knocking the musket from the soldier's hands. More men surged forward, tried to grab the musket, the soldier now on the ground, fists striking back. There was a blinding flash as the musket fired. White felt his heart leap, saw a man in the crowd go down, heard something